Assalamu alaikum and hello to everyone once again, and here with a new lecture that is very interesting, man, very close to my heart as well. Obviously, you know that we are studying John Donne, and today I have a Holy Sonnet number 10 of John Donne. We are going to discuss today, and I'm your instructor Asim. Hopefully, you are doing well, enjoying your holidays, and hopefully, I'll see you very soon once this pandemic it's over. So, so let's see how our today's topic goes. So the Holy Sonnet that named "Death Be Not Proud." This poem was written by John Donne, who is considered a metaphysical poet in the Elizabethan period. I wonder how many times you read this word metaphysical poet. Almost in every lecture, I guess. And obviously, he was a metaphysical poet, and I had to discuss this word in every lecture. So, metaphysical poets analyzed love, religion, and life from a psychological point of view. This slide is very easy one. I think I don't need to explain it further, I guess. And let's get straight onto the next slide. This Holy Sonnet represents an argument against the power of death. The poet addresses death as a person. He gives physical characteristics to inanimate idea or concept. Obviously, he discussed and argued against the death, and we'll discuss and see how it goes and how it is valuable for our today's topic actually. So I would like to discuss few things with you. Death Be Not Proud by John Donne is one of the poet's best poems by death, and it tells the listener to not to fear death as he keeps morally corrupt company and only leads to heaven. वो बेहतरीन उसकी पोएम थी और डेथ पे लिखी गई सबसे बेहतरीन पोएम थी जॉन डन की. And he always said that do not fear death as he keeps morally corrupt company and only leads to heaven. In this poem, the speaker affronts an enemy, death personified. This enemy is one most fair, but in this sonnet, the speaker essentially tells him off. The way the speaker talks to death reveals that he is not afraid of death and does not think that death should be so sure of himself or so proud. The confident tone of death, be not proud, and the direct confrontation of death provides an ironic sense of comfort to the readers by implicitly suggesting that death is not to be feared at all, but that in the end death will be overcome by something even greater. And I hope you understand it clearly that I have just spoke to you. There are some difficult words in this poem, so I made the meaning and make it easy for you. Mighty means powerful, and thee, as you know that. You and delivery to reach freedom. Slave, obviously, is a servant. Fate is a destiny. You know that it is a simple one, I guess. And desperate, one who feds up. And dosed means does. And sickness, obviously, you know that ill. And poppy, red flower, which gives us opium. And charms, different ways of putting person to sleep. Stroke mean attack, and swell to become big, and eternally is forever, and shalt means shall. I found personally there are a few words that are difficult, so I wrote their meaning and made it a little bit easier for you. Obviously, you are a competent class and you know meaning all of these words, but I try my best to keep it simple, as simplest as I can. What is the rhyme scheme of this Holy Sonnet number 10? A B B A A B B A A B B A A A. In this sonnet, John Donne mixed the Shakespearean and the Petrarchan sonnets. Shakespearean according to the division, Petrarchan according to the rhyme scheme. So इसने उसको डिवाइड कर दिया दो हिस्सों में, शेक्सपियरियन और पेट्रियार्कन सॉनेट में. शेक्सपियरियन के तौर पर उसने डिवीजन ली और पेट्रियार्कन तौर पर उसने राइम स्कीम ली. एज यू नो दैट ही ऑलवेज यूज्ड patriarchal language. Obviously, he was in Italian and a great poet as well. We have discussed already in our lecture. So, what is? I would like to read a first quatrain in front of you. Death be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. These are the first language, first quatrain of the sonnet. I have read in front of you, and let's see how we paraphrase the first quatrain. In the first line, the Shakespeare is personifying death, telling him that he shouldn't be proud, although some people have, although some people call him mighty and dreadful, but it is not so, and this is the reason for not being proud. The speaker then says that death cannot do anything because he thinks that he killed. So here in this quatrain, and the Shakespeare immediately creates a personified version of the death by talking directly to him. He paints the picture of death as an arrogant being and one who needs to be humbled. The speaker assumes the position of the one who must humble this being, death. He tells him that he ought not to be so proud, even though for generations people have feared death and called him mighty and dreadful. The speaker, whoever with a voice of absolute authority on the matter, simply states, "Thou art not so." This poet uses the literary statistic of apostrophe to drive home his point. Apostrophe occurs when a writer addresses a subject who cannot respond readers now. So that cannot respond readers now, immediately that this is sonnet will consist of one speaker who will do all of the talking and accusing of his subject. Death, though adequately personified, cannot respond to the accusation of the speaker. So here the first quatrain that I have explained in front of you, and hopefully you are understanding my words. And this way speaker says that that cannot do anything because of he thinks that he killed. For the next one, many people, but actually they are not dead. Then he addresses death, saying that death is a poor thing, even though he cannot destroy or kill him. There is a first quatrain has been ended, then hopefully you have understand it quite clearly. And now I'm going to read the next quatrain in front of you, the text actually, the original text. For those whom thou thinks is thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. So is the second quatrain, sorry, and this is its original text. And the second quatrain is the speaker is giving us a proof that death is just like sleep and rest. He is comparing death to sleep and rest. He is asking what we get from sleep and rest, but player, and if sleep and rest are a copy from the original so form. Death, we are going to get more player. The speaker is telling us that when death come to us, it will free our souls and it will rest our bones, and our souls will fly from this prison which is the body. So he's telling us that we shouldn't be afraid from it because it happen every day. Before moving on to the third quatrain, I would like to discuss few things more with you personally. Here in Death Not Be Found, the speaker accuses the death of having illusion of grandeur. He claims that while death thinks that he has the power to kill, he actually does not. The speaker first humbles death by telling him that his idea that he has the power to overthrow lives is simply an illusion, and that he has no such power at all. Then, to further humiliate death, the speaker calls him poor death. It sounds almost as if the speaker is making fun of death for having lived under the illusion that he had any sort of power over life or death. Then he addresses death in a more personal manner, challenging him by saying, "He can't though kill me, it seems dangerous." For the threaten and death is away. However, knowledge of John Donne's background and ideologies can give some insight into the speaker's confidence here. Though everyone knows that physical death does indeed occur, the speaker is challenging death in a different way. He uses the Christian theology of eternity to taunt death by telling him essentially, even if you take my physical body, you can never truly kill me. That is what he was suggesting. So let's see line 5 and 6 from rest and sleep, which but they pictures must be clear, then from the much more must flow. And then 9, 7 and 8 and the sonnet of the first man with thee do go, rest their bones and souls delivery. And the speaker is giving us another proof that death is not mighty. He is considering death as a slave to faith because the slaves can't control themselves but they obey orders, especially when people want to commit suicide. He goes with them, and also he is a slave to chance kings. In these lines, the speaker compares death to rest and sleep and even uses the word player to describe how one should feel about death. Just as a restful night of sleep brings pleasure, so should death. The speaker implies that sleep is simply a small glimpse of death. Thus, there is nothing to fear in death, for death will bring something like a pleasurable sleep. Here in Death We Not Found, the Wesley speaker says that the best men seem to experience death, the sonnets, while others have long questioned why it seems as if the best people die soonest. The speaker offers an answer here, suggesting that The best among men deserve to experience the peaceful rest of death sooner, without having to endure the agonies of a long life on the rest of their bones and souls. Both these descriptions make death seems like a welcome friend who comes to graciously offer us peace and the deliverance of the one soul from an earthly body where pain and suffering abides. Then the speaker is describing us to place when death is living in, and that it is surrounded by poison, wars, and sickness. So he is not powerful or mighty, because if it was so, it can change its surroundings. The speaker is saying that anyone can have a long sleep by using drugs or any kind of medicines. In line 9 and 10, the speaker takes a stronger tone and begins to taunt death with the more ferocity with that he did at first. Here he calls death as a slave to chance kings and desperate men. He tells that that is not mighty and dreadful, but rather a poor slave who cannot even act on his own, but is driven not only by fate and chance, but also by people, rich and poor alike. He then accuses death of having lowly companions such as poison, war, and sickness. He has taunted death, like telling him that he is not to be feared, and but rather that he is a slave to the will of fate, man, and that as involve a slave of companions. These accusations serve to allow the readers to feel a sense of power and victory over death. The speaker certainly feels authority over death, and he passes this feeling along to his readers when he puts death in his place by talking down to him. So death is not strong enough, and this is better than striking us, because he will be waiting to die. After all, the speaker is asking him why he is proud of himself. In line 11 and 12, he further discussed that, saying that all he brings is a little sleep, and he doesn't even do that, as well as some other bringers of rest such as poppy and charms. This comparison further portrayed that as something not only weak but even playable. The speaker questions death, asking why. Solaced though, then he asks him why he is so puffed up. And further in line 13 and 14, let's move on to the next slide. In the final couplet, the speaker is telling death that he is not afraid of him, because after this sleep he will wake up and live eternally, and death in the other life will have no place for him in the shall be finished. And further, there are some of figures of speech in the sonnet. The poem is full of alliteration. Line 1, though, line 3, though, and line 4, die, death, canst kill. Line 6, much more, must, than, thee, from, for, flow. Line 10, those dwell with war. Line 12, then, thee, though, them. Line 13, one, we, wake. And line 14, death, die, shall, shalt. These are the figures of speech that you can experience and you can see in this sonnet. And there are some metaphors as well. He compares death to a slave. So metaphor with personification, death be not proud. And next metaphor is he compares death to a person who is proud. Donne ends the poem with paradox and irony. Death, though short, thee. Hopefully, you are getting my point. I think I wanted to explain this slide as well. This is quite a simple one, and you are eligible and vigilant, and you are capable enough to understand all these things. There is something to personify in this sonnet as well. There is a personification as well that is given. Negative human traits, pride, mainly death, is linked to sleep and commonplace image. Metonymy, poppy and charms refers to the use of opium and magic to produce sleep or to be produced a gentle death. Poppy is metonymy. It is what is derived from the poppy, that is a opiate, not literally the flower itself. And on the next one, Donne's theme tells us reader that death has no right to be proud. This poem is a metaphysical poem. It deals with human experience as much as of the poetry that was written during those time. However, the poets of that era, being intelligent and educated, meant that the poetry they wrote would tackle the profound areas of expression. That's how this poem ended. I'll discuss something with you before going off. In the last line, the speaker reveals exactly why he has been taunting death so relentlessly. Although it is obvious that death is real, as you know that, and the people who experience death do not come back to the earth. This is obviously I know that, and we know that as well. And the speaker reveals his reason for claiming that death is weak and easily overcome, and he claims that death is only one short sleep, and who experience death but internally then he claims that death shall be no more. Finally he tells death, thou shalt die. The speaker has not only told death that he has no real power over anyone, but that he will experience the end of himself when all wake in eternity and death will be no more. So this is very important regarding your exams as well. This is a very good holy sonnet. Thank you very much for your cooperation. That is it for today now.